Hello there and welcome once again. This is Third Eye Africa TV and we are at the Central Business District in Abuja. My name is Ben Adam Shaman. Our program is Democracy in Action. And today we want to look at security. Where and when there is security, democracy strives better. Where there is security, investors, local and foreign, will always be around. Where there is security, there is peaceful and harmonious living or livelihood that promotes what humanity is all about. And Nigeria is in serious need of security. Therefore, today we want to look at the fact that in Niger State, a bridge has been blown off using explosives. It's said to have been done by the terrorists, Lakurawa group. And we've also seen that ISWAP in Borno State carries some attacks too. This inhumanity is continuing. And in the midst of all of this, we can see that America sent in some troops to train Nigerians in terms of intelligence, in terms of even operations, some kind of drone activities, in order for the Nigerian military to take the war to where it belongs, to where the terrorists are. Instead of reacting, they will dominate the environment, meaning the security forces in Nigeria must be in charge. And being in charge, therefore, they are the aggressors. How are they supposed to do that? Well, we have a guest who is a journalist like me. And of course, he's from Benue State. He has also, his communities has also been testing activities of bandits and terrorists. So we want to look at that with Mr. Samuel ODAUDU. He is the deputy editor of Blueprint newspaper here in Abuja. Sir, welcome to Third Eye Africa TV.
The pleasure is mine, sir.
Now, by way of kickstarting this discussion, I will resend how will you look at security and insecurity in Nigeria?
Well, we have been having this issue of insecurity for as long as we can remember. At the moment, we are having, relief here, and then at another time, we are being pressed really at the other side. Presently, the news that we hear, the leading news at the moment, is the fact that we are having a major push by the insurgents or terrorists in Niger State, consistently so in Borno, in Kwara, Benue is still ongoing, Plateau, and many other places.
Now, yes, sorry to cut you short. Let's start with Kwara and Niger State. The community known as Wawa was attacked around December. And of recent too, another attack. I know. Isn't that community, why Kwara, and isn't that attack becoming too frequent?
You can say that again. The issue there really is that many people are really wondering why these frequent attacks. And each time the attack happens, it comes with huge casualties. We are also talking about Kainji, where a bridge was blown. Woro community, they have been having these recurrent attacks by militant groups. In the case of that Niger state where a bridge was blown open, it is a major crisis, because what that means is that from reports, the bridge is a strategic bridge that links a number of communities, major markets. It connects the communities in Niger State to Kebbi State, and from there to a big market, is it Banana or Babana market, through which you can also find your way to Benin Republic. And we are talking about Kenji, which is a major economic community even to the country. That is where we have the dam, national dam, where it produces electricity. We also have a national park right in the Kenji locality. And this place is around the Bogu local government. What is the name of the local government headquarters again? Busa. Is it Busa, right?
There's Busa, there's Borgu. They all are neighbors.
Exactly. So we are having this place becoming consistently flashpoints for activities of these non-state actors. It is very worrisome, and I want to look at it from this perspective that it should be of a special interest to the president. Why did I say so? We all know in February 2006, Mr. President was given a chieftaincy title by his late friend, the Emir of Bogu, the late Alhaji Haliru Dantoro. And the title is Jagaban of Bogu. What that also means, according to interpreters, is that he is the chief or a leading warrior of that kingdom. And I think with that kind of emotional, relational relationship, it should be a place that is of special interest, where the warrior instinct in him should really come out to defend that place. Not only there, we want to see the military is really, really trying, but we want to see more action so that we will be able to prevent these consistent attacks that leave many, many communities, residents, communities displaced, and then farmlands deserted, and people are unable to go out for their normal, to eke out a living for themselves. So it is really, really something that is troubling.
Yeah, you see, just like you said, I remember when Haliru Dantoro was the emir of Borugu, he gave this title, Jagaba, to Tinubu, because they were senators at the point together. So that friendship kind of arose from there. And that title, like you said, truly has to do with, that place, the president's eye must be there. If the late emir were to be around, I'm sure he would have been calling the president, more attention would have been taken there. But you could see that very close to that area was where the bridge was blown off. And in terms of these economic activities, and you look at in a thick forest where these terrorists will also want to delay, when I say delay, when soldiers will want to reach these terrorists, of course, they can't cross the bridge just anyhow. And from experience too, around Borno areas, when they blew off a bridge like this, they usually put landmines on all sides, So don't you think it's a very big, huge task now that the soldiers, the military, have, ahead of them in this country?
Yes, I agree with that point you made. Usually, the military plan for what they will do, just like the non-state actors, the terrorists, they also have their plans. And they want to be seen as the one that are having the upper hand. against the troops. We also know this is not a conventional warfare. Yes, in this kind of situation, we need a high-level intelligence. And we need to be ahead of these people. And there is a need for a very comprehensive coordination, interagency collaboration, in order to ensure that you have advanced information and you are able to do your analysis, and then you are able to map out your strategies. And it has become a trend, going by the few examples we have, that once the non-state actors want you cut off or to delay your operational reach, first they cut off roads, they cut off bridges, and then they plant the mines. And so it becomes very difficult for the troops to operate easily, like the one that happened in Niger State. We read that first and foremost, before the bridge was blown, the mines exploded and killed about, about 8 or more people, many people, all the persons in the particular vehicle that first drove into the landmines, all of them died. And so it has become a trend. And so we have to, the military, the entire military structure will really have to be ahead of the terrorists in terms of carrying out their intelligence, in terms of ensuring that of course, we already know that we have a number of equipment, drones supplied by the Americans. By now, we should have advantage in terms of knowing the activities of these people before they can even put themselves together to execute what they want to do. And so if we are not already having that upper hand, it means it will be difficult to stop them or to win the war. Because the essence of having drones and gathering this intelligence information is to preempt this action, is to prevent the action. I mean, the detonation of improvised explosives. So if we don't prevent them through advanced intelligence gathering, analyzing them, and planning a better operational strategies, it will be difficult to stop them operating this way.
Now, before we even go to, ahead of the program, we shall be discussing the presence of Americans in Nigeria. But let's look at, let's still go local. In terms of intelligence, that there was that bomb blast. There was that sound. So in terms of the community, when people also talk about community policing, state policing, what should be the role of the community in a situation like this?
Well, the community, we know every community, like it is usually said, every citizen is a stakeholder in terms of security. The challenge is that before you can bring members of the community to become relevant in your community engagement, there has to be some level of orientation within the community. We know that many of our communities, the members are largely ignorant, because we understand that in a particular location in a community, you know who are strangers in your midst. And when you see strange faces that are not familiar to the environment, especially those that may pose one form of threat or the other, you identify, and then you inform maybe traditional rulers and then the other relevant security agencies if they are present. But it will require a coordination. You mentioned, let's say, local vigilantes, for example. Local vigilantes, they can succeed in supporting and in helping the conventional trained security personnel to fight a serious conflict like we are talking about now. But if they are not well trained and armed and motivated, and it also takes a long a process to really train these people and bring them into this kind of conventional fight. For example, we saw the role of the JTF in Borno State, the Northeast. We heard and we read reports of how supportive they were in repelling several instances of invading insurgents.
Yes, exactly, Mr. ODAUDU. Yes. In Maiduguri, truly, I was always mingling with the civilian joint task force. You could see me snapping with them because they decided to form themselves irrespective of any tribe at all. They all formed themselves, including females, to help protect their communities. So the question still remains, a simple phone call when you see stranger fellows, it's also necessary that security agencies also give a particular number. When you see something strange, like it is said, see something, say something, or do something. See it, put a call through to some security agencies, which must also protect the community so that no one gets to know that the information came from so community. So don't you think that Nigerians need to also own this war?
Yes, they need to. It requires a proper structure, because you cannot allow vigilantes to coordinate themselves. These people were essentially, let's say, hunters, people who arm themselves, going to the forest, hunting for animals, or maybe they arm themselves to prevent intruders, people coming to steal yams and things from the compound. But we are talking about advanced and modern or sophisticated warfare. We cannot allow the hunters and vigilantes to gather themselves and then train themselves or arm themselves. No, we must structure them properly. And that is why the argument of, one of the arguments that people are advancing it, that it should become a policy, is that of the state police, the creation of state police. That if we are able to graduate in this conversation from vigilante groups into a creation or establishment of state police, you can equally recruit these people depending on the roles you want them to play, and there must be a legal framework, operational framework, and a lot of other strategies. So it is high time we had this done. Bring these people together, train them, equip them, but we must make them a formal structure that can, or that are capable of confronting this type of conflict, major conflict with heavy weapons, because the hunters, our traditional understanding is that hunters carry Dane guns, they carry catapult and this crude implements, but crude weapons. But this time we are talking about AK-47, we are talking about drones and so on. So we cannot allow people to just form themselves and say we want to go and fight people who are well armed, coming to invade and displace you.
And so you think, for a start, and the vision of Tinubu, this issue of creation of or creating a state police, you think it can be to the rescue? It can come to the rescue?
It is very, very possible. And I think it should be encouraged. And I also want to believe that The government of President Tinubu can create the state police, because we have seen the character of this government as having a courage to do certain things, looking at the reform he has undertaken. If this approach to reform in the economy and other sectors, fiscal, federal, fiscal sectors we have seen, is introduced into the security system, and it dovetails into the creation of state police, it is one of the suggestions that have been put forward by many other security experts that it is high time we got this right this very moment, because it can support and help in advancing our cause in terms of arresting this drift that we have continued to witness.
Now, let us begin to move towards the northeastern part of this country, Yobe, Borno in particular, the epicenters of this insurgency, even though it's spreading. This idea of having community policing, still talking civilian joint task force. Outside these two states, you hardly find, like, let's look at the way they form themselves. In Borno State, virtually every tribe has members in a civilian joint task force. Now, when it comes to Benue, when it comes to Southern Kaduna, when it comes to Zamfara, when it comes to Plateau State, I mean, how can we have some civilian joint task force? These are natives, by the way, of the area. They know every environment, and they tend to know some bad acts within the community. Mm-hmm. You know, why is it that, let's say the case of Benue, you form a civilian joint task force, it encompasses every other tribe. Why is it hard in your own thinking?
Well, it has so much to do with the politics of the state. If you look at it from Borno State, Bauchi State, Yobe, at the early stage of Boko Haram, we learned that these people started as foot soldiers or politicians, quote and unquote thugs, and then who were used, and then who were abandoned, and then who came together to form different groups. Now, these people know the system, they know the environment, they know the location, all the nooks and crannies of the villages, the states. The same way the civilian JTF or community police we are going to form, they have. These people are all already angry with some of the politicians who used them and did not adequately compensate them. And now, if you have a divided interest, especially with politicians playing or trying to maximize their own advantage, either positively or negatively in such a situation, and then a state government whose policies do not go with the interests of certain politicians now wants to form a state police or a community police or a civilian JTF, you will discover that other politicians will arm the other groups that are not happy with the state government in order to continue to have issues. It requires a very strong political will and courage. And if politicians are not providing leadership that brings peace, it is difficult to even come together to say, this is what we must do. It requires that decisiveness, and transparency is very key. If you have to be transparent, you have to be courageous, and you have to ensure that there is a purposeful governance. People can feel the impact of the governance before you can bring traditional rulers bring political leaders, religious community leaders, and say, look, this is the direction we are going to go. So it is not always easy where already you have bad governance system. Because at the end of the day, the opposition in the state will think that you want to create such institution or an agency in order to use it to harass those who do not like or those who are opposed to your government. So it's difficult to separate politics from this conversation that we are talking about.
Now, when you said there has to be purposive leadership, on purpose, therefore, do you think that it is right that we have the Americans here, they are trainers to train security operatives or agencies in Nigeria?
There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. It has been a tradition in defense systems and policies that those who are stronger than you or more advanced than you, they impart knowledge, they train you, they support you. You have bilateral, multilateral relations with such powers. It is not new. For Nigeria, especially when you look at the U.S. interventions in Nigeria, we are talking about the #1 military power in the world. And we have problems that are very overwhelming. And then already we have noticed that there are divisions in terms of public opinion. There are those who feel the government does not have the political will to actually combat terrorism in the country. And there is another school of thought that believes very strongly that it is not absolutely the fault of the government, but that there are sympathizers amongst the leaders who are sponsoring or supporting terrorism, conflict, and so on and so forth. So there are mixed reactions to this. But generally, the kind of sophistication that insurgents and militants come with, not only in Nigeria, in different parts of the world where you have conflicts, civil wars, you discover that you don't only need weapons that are also sophisticated, you have to be ahead of those who are the militants who are coming with conflict and war to the conventional military. And so training and retraining is a part of the military tradition and security tradition. We have seen many of our senior officers travel to the US, to the UK, India, and many other countries for different types of military training. We also have our schools. We have the National Defense War College. We also have the National Defense Agency. Is it NDA, right? National Defense, NDA, National Defense Academy. Thank you.
Then you also have the Armed Forces Command and Staff College in Jaji.
Yes, so you also find out that the trainees are not solely Nigerians. We also have other African countries sending their own military officers to come and receive training here. So it is part of learning from different places, especially where you are disadvantaged and you see advantage. You go there to learn more in order to bring home that knowledge and apply it for a improved or a better security at home. So it is not a wrong policy. It has been a long-standing military tradition. Where it may have some questions that many people have been asking in the case of the U.S. intervention in Nigeria is in a circumstance that it questions the sovereignty of Nigeria. People will begin to, Nigerians or many critics will begin to look at it as if Nigeria cannot defend itself. And so it needs another country, foreign country, to come and defend itself. And so that is where the argument goes on. And it really raises a lot of questions. Why is it not that by now Nigeria, as a country, we cannot be self-reliant in terms of production of military equipment and weapons?
Yes. We'll just go on a short break, but not without listening to voices of Nigerians who have been talking about the needs for America to assist Nigeria. So let's have their voices.
I've been a security personnel. In other words, I have been a security person for colleges. For instance, when I was in a federal government college in Ikoto Buton in Akwa Ibom State, I know what we passed through. The boys there, they were so, you can't predict their behavior. Sometimes they will just come in and I'm talking about the school system. The school system. Because as I'm talking to you now, I'm assistant director. And I came in here for a kind of examination, and we are passing through a lot of, interviews here and there. So I want to say that security management is not a kind of easy thing, okay? Because you can't predict a lot of things. You understand now? So when we are talking about trying to quell down, situations to make sure that at least there will be peace, there will be security and all that, we give time. You understand? Because it's not a one-day affair. It's not something that will just happen automatic. So from the situation of things, I'm thinking that to start judging the presence of American troops, trying to train military personnel, to be able to tackle the insurgency, especially in the Northeast, we have to give them time.
The Nigerian government have invited them. They have invited them for a reason, meaning they trust that their intelligence will add more values to our own military intelligence in helping to curb the menace of insecurity in Nigeria. The big question we ask is, why has the Nigerian government failed in curbing it? Does it mean we don't have the capacity, human capacity, material capacity? Because when it comes to combating problem situations like that, Nigeria is well noted. Look at the Gori event of the Congolese, look at Ekomog, look at all these places. Nigerian military have always been sent there to curb excesses, and they've been doing that successfully. How comes now that it's our own internal problem, we couldn't do that? It shows that people at high caliber have a say, have a personal interest. There's a conflict of personal interest with national interests. That's the truth about it. Conflict of national interest with personal interest. Now the problem is how to identify that conflict and who are responsible for that conflict. I'm very sure that is the reason that have necessitated them bringing in a foreign higher power with higher intelligence to sort these things out. Now the American government coming in here to assist Nigeria, it's a welcome idea, a problem that we ourselves could not solve. But it has its positive and negative effects.
For me, there's no significant change as far as I'm concerned, because since they came in, of recent, we are still hearing terrorist blast in some states, killing 10, 15, 20. The only strike they struck was in Sokoto when we learned that even the terrorists were not killed, that it was innocent souls that were affected. So if they really want to bring an end to this insurgency, the militancy and banditry, they should work in collaboration with this Nigerian army. I don't want to say they are being compromised, but from all indications, even from some of our generals, it's like our Nigerian army is being compromised. If not, there is a saying by the former head of state, late General Abacha. He said if there is an insurgency, riot, fight that exceeds the 25 hours or maximum for the 48 hours, it means government hand is involved. So you can imagine, this is not just 1 year, not 2 years. Throughout the tenure of a old General Buhari, it has been on. till he left. Now, 3 years of Tinubu, we are still fighting it. In fact, it started even in the time of Jonathan, when even Jonathan made a speech that he is very sure some of the people involved in this insurgency, out of you are in his government. So you can imagine. So in other words, to hear from the number one citizen, it means there is a collaboration.
If I say there is no change, I'm lying. You can see throughout the period of this Salah, we do everything peacefully. We travel to various states and come back, even though we have some casualty in another state. But when changes come, it may not come at once. We should have some problems in the other area, but other places we shall bother. But bottom line is there, the changes have brought a very, it reduced significantly that we all enjoying ourselves now. There is nothing just disturbed. But you can see we move freely here. And I believe people that travel to Salah, we didn't hear they stop anybody on the way. Everybody went and come back successfully. So we thank God for that. And we thank God for them, as the military have come to train our own military again in the area they may not understand. But now they are well trained. They will take off from there, even if they are not here again. Our Nigerian people can be capable to take off from where they try not stop.
Those are voices of our Nigerians as we go on this short break. When we come back, we'll still be discussing, is it necessary that America should be here? And since they are here, what kind of training should they impact on Nigerians? So, my name is Bernard Amshaman, and our guest is Mr. Samuel ODAUDU. He's the Deputy Editor, Blueprint newspaper here in Abuja.
Each week, one program. The most gripping crimes. The stories you won't forget. Crimes of the week on Third Eye Africa TV. We give you stories as it was reported. Stories from the Nigerian police, the NDLEA, NAPTIP, the EFCC, NAFDAC, and the ICPC. My name is Margaret Adewale. Watch Crimes of the Week only on Third Eye Africa TV every Sunday, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. on Star Times Channel 146. Join us.
Welcome back. Our guest still remains Mr. Samuel ODAUDU, Deputy Editor, Blueprint newspaper here in Abuja, and my name is Bernard Amshaman. So let's look at what in particular do you think that Nigerian military will need from the Americans? Also bearing in mind that the same America, the first tenure of President Donald Trump, he ensured that Nigeria got these super Tucanos. So what kind of training do you think Nigerian soldiers will need this time around?
This, of course, mainly will be best answered by the military people themselves who understand their deficiencies. But like you have rightly pointed out, super Tucanos, drones, and a range of other weapons that have been supplied to Nigerians. Yes, many will say even the kind of budgetary system that we operate, funding of counter-terrorism and the national security, why haven't we been able to completely decimate insecurity in the country? Well, the fact is that in terms of especially intelligence gathering, it has really advanced, apart from human factor in intelligence gathering. We have also seen the technological aspect, the use of drones and other advanced or sophisticated cameras. And so the use of these technologies are very important. Of course, when you have sophisticated weapons, in order to best maximize them, you need to be properly trained. And of course, if you have different types of warfare like we have, you can send troops to the desert to go and maybe intervene in a particular conflict. You have forest areas. These are professional things with the military that they can handle and they know the areas of their deficiency. However, the core issue for me in terms of the U.S. intervention in Nigeria is the fact that after that December 2025 strikes in Sokoto State, there appeared to be a kind of the federal government's, it boosted the federal government's effort in terms of launching or to be more aggressive in fighting, confronting insurgency, as it were. And many Nigerians felt that, yes, this is good because they have more confidence that this man, the president of the US, who is far away, if he is concerned about the state of the country and he's speaking so aggressively and he's even launching strikes and sending troops and threatening to even come in a greater force if the Nigerian government cannot demonstrate commitment in fighting and pushing back these terrorist threats. So it gives so many people confidence. And of course, it will only be fair to say that if the Nigerian military or government does not need any assistance from the US, there might never have been a need for this kind of either collaboration or maybe a support system. It is out of the needs of the Nigerian military that must have necessitated this idea of, all right, we need you to give us more training. We need your equipment, especially the ones that are sophisticated. And this is very important. I would like to also highlight the fact that if you read or heard so many things that people put in the media and sometimes on social media, especially those who, quote and unquote, have experience, from the front lines. We have had a number of times testimonies pointing to a point that the insurgents or non-state actors have more weapons or sophisticated weapons than our own troops. Although it is an argument that is you cannot, take it to an official position because nobody will admit it in the military hierarchy. However, if we have such a situation, of course, it is only reasonable and logical that we must have advanced weapons. We must also be well trained. We must also work harder on our intelligence gathering. And we must also support our own troops and our soldiers. We must let them know that we understand the delicate nature of the fight that they are in, the war they are in, because they are human beings, they are our brothers, our sisters, uncles, and friends. We must continue to support them. But that does not mean that we have quite a number of lapses in our system that will be needing assistance. That one is sure. And if there is none, I guess the Americans and other people won't be here.
Now, in the midst of this, President Tinubu met with state governors in Lagos during the 8th Feter, where he also said France is ready to assist with equipment. Is this good omen, or we just we should be manufacturing our own equipment? We have the Defense Industries Corporation in Kaduna, DICON, and some other agencies. So what's your take on all of this?
Yes, I mentioned this earlier. At this stage, it is high time Nigeria started walking extra mile towards self-reliance in terms of military equipment and weapons. Like you mentioned, we have DICON and so many other institutions. We have NASENI, investing seriously in drone production and local technological tools and so on. It requires a lot of strategic planning, strategic investments, and determination. Because for how long are we going to be depending on other countries' weapons to fight our own war? And that really leads to very important questions, whether all these bilateral defense pacts we are having, buying or getting supplies of weapons and sharing of intelligence. And so sharing of intelligence is not only about because Nigeria is less, quote and unquote, okay, less powerful, yes, less powerful than the US in terms of defense system, but that even amongst the powerful countries in terms of military might, they still share intelligence. But this is the high point of it. We just have to start thinking inward seriously about manufacturing our own weapons, relying on ourselves, so that we will be able to master our own self-defense system instead of relying on external weapons on a continuous basis. Because if we continue like this, people are going to be asking, like we are asking, is this sustainable?
Now, is this sustainable? That's a question Nigerians have been asked. But again, we look at when Nigerians begin to mix security with politics, you know, how can we get out of this? At the point some people say, the soldiers are being compromised. How do you determine that? At the point the political class is neglecting the soldiers, you know? So how do we get it right? I mean, removing politics from security matters.
Well, for us, as a country, it is very delicate, removing security completely from politics. In an ideal situation, security issues should be dealt with squarely, on its own merits, based on reality, facts on the ground. But this is our own country where sometimes when you are even focused, when the government is focused on fighting insecurity, sometimes the people from the area can even tell you that you are killing innocent people. And then there is political interpretation to it. You also have ethnic interpretation. You also have religious interpretations to it. It shows that we have not matured as a people, to learn and to understand that we must remove sentiment anytime we are dealing with life-threatening issues like insecurity. And our politicians, the political leaders, looking at the way they also conduct themselves, the rhetorics we hear them dish out all the time, they don't even encourage anybody, who wants peace, many times. Oftentimes, you see politicians, whether he or she is campaigning, or he is just trying to respond to a policy action, or he is criticizing the policies of an incumbent, they speak languages that are not good at all. They speak in a manner that incites people. They speak in a way that will encourage others to join them. Okay, let us pull this government down because it's not in our favor. And I think it was one of the signs that manifested when the US President Donald Trump threatened to send troops to Nigeria. Many people said, yes, let them come. Let them even overthrow the government. You are inviting a foreign troop.
I think issue of overthrowing a government is not wanted any longer.
There's no one.
We're talking about democracy, where people believe, look, soldiers must always be subjected to civil rule.
Yes.
That the Constitution, therefore, is supreme.
Yes.
If you also check, some people are saying those who have been accused or alleged to have plotted to overthrow the government, some people are saying, okay, you can't try them using military laws because we are in a democracy, but finally, in terms of trying to set an agenda for the federal government, the government of President Tinubu, as Nigeria is marching towards 2027 elections. Recall what happened in Borno, where people were wondering whether elections will ever take place there. So we need a very stable polity for this election to take place. So what agenda, finally, will you want to present to President Tinubu?
I believe strongly that if the government wants the election to hold well, it will hold well. And the political actors are also part of the system. They are part of the problems. They can also be part of the solutions. We've had cases or reports rather, where in places that were said to have been plagued by a conflict during elections, election observers couldn't go there, but the results came. Why will results, come from polls located in areas that is said to be insecure or unsafe for election officials or observers, to go there and do their job? And so these are issues. It is possible. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I believe that based on the kind of mindset that we have seen him demonstrate in some of the major policies he has taken, if the will is there, he can push an agenda, bring the political leaders together, and ensure that there is peaceful election. If the politicians are ready, if they are, and one of the agendas in discussing this is there has to be a free and fair election, so that if nobody is threatened, if nobody's interest is threatened with any prospect of illegality, everybody will ensure that, yes, let there be fair playing ground for everybody to participate. Because election crisis is part of the issues that we are talking about. Politics is part of the current crisis in Nigeria. And so all hands must be on deck. The political class must come together. They must see the state of the country, the peace of the country, stable democracy, and the progress that democracy can attract and bring as a priority. All these selfish interests and all these self-promotions against the state interest, everybody should be able to put the interest of the nation ahead, because if there is no peace, you cannot actualize your political interest or goal. Your businesses, your family, everybody will be in it. And so they have to come together. But he has to lead, he has to be in charge. He has to pull all the stakeholders together and make them see that this is our common objective. We may not agree politically, but on this national security issue, vis-a-vis how our democracy can be sustained, we must agree to this.
Well, it is here that we have to end this edition of Democracy in Action, and it came to you via Third Eye Africa TV, and our guest has been Mr. Samuel ODAUDU, Deputy Editor-in-Chief of Blueprint, a newspaper. He's based here in Abuja. My name is Ben Damshaman. Keep watching us, and as we usually say, we are proudly Nigerians, and we want to thank you for coming to Third Eye Africa TV.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Right.